Good afternoon, everyone. So it's so hard to come to terms with the fact that a day will come when a piggy vest will become that traditional bank you really hate. I know you hate all of them. I hate them too. Right? I do. I hate the fact that for every transaction you put in your 2,000 naira and you wake up the next morning and you find 1,899 naira. And you're wondering what the problem is. So I began to do a bit of soul searching. And all of the ideas I'm going to share here are my personal opinion. So I began to do a soul searching and I asked myself the question, next slide. In the days of our father, our grandfathers, and our great-grandfathers, how did they manage their wealth? How did they manage investments? How did they build, in quotes, an empire? Right? And you would agree with me that these guys had different methodologies. They kept their monies in the ground. They had friends who gave them money based on relationship. I'm a farmer here, you're a farmer there. I need to expand my business. You give me money to, whatever money was then, right? You give me money to invest in mine. I invest. Once I'm done and I scale, I return the money back. Our fathers in those days, our great-grandfathers, if you may say, they had cooperatives, they had association. They had Egbe Akomolede. They had progressive unions. Do you agree with me? And this was the life they lived until some people they call BANKS came into the picture. These guys were living their lives. They were enjoying themselves. They were having the best of time until these guys came into the picture. So I'm going to use Nigeria as a use case. 1894, right? We had the merger of two corporations come together to what you know today as First Bank of Nigeria. And from that moment, we began to see different organizations coming together to say that let's gather investors' money, let's start up an organization so that people can bring their money, let's help them manage their wealth, let's help them manage their finance, let's help them build an empire. Right? And it began like that. 1894, we had the First Bank of Nigeria. 1946, we had other banks. Then we began to have banks after banks after bank until about 1956, when we had the first bank that literally spoke to the demography in Nigeria, the first agricultural bank. So all through from 1894 to about 1946, right, we had no bank that spoke to farmers. And they were literally providing solutions for farmers. Right or right? I mean, is any of your great-grandfather a tech bro here? I mean, maybe they traveled back in the future, right? So these guys were literally farmers and hunters, but no bank thought it wise to create a product called agric. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? So on this trajectory, banks began to evolve. All of the new banks you know today. Then at some point in 2004, we had what you call the banking reform by the guy that was causing problem then in Central Bank of Nigeria. And he crashed 89 banks to about 25. And you started seeing the likes of Access Bank buying like 2 banks. You started seeing the likes of Wema Bank pulling in the National Bank. You started seeing the likes of IBTC and Stanbic merging together. You see Sterling Bank buying Equity Bank, for example. So these banks began to merge because of, the funds they needed to start a bank. So they raised the valuation from 2 billion to 25 billion. Right? But the central truth was that something was still missing. The reason why banks exist is ideally for you to solve the problem of customers. It's for you to solve my problem. Banks don't exist for their own selves. And at the point when banks began to evolve, and they were in the bubble of themselves, they were living their lives, they were making money, and they were declaring different profits. How many of you see the profits of bank and you just get angry? How many of you see their profit and you're like, where are these guys making this money from? God bless you. I get angry too. Right? So it was from this anger, some guys just thought about it and said that, see, can we find a way to crack these things? The solution these guys need is access to financial services, not rocket science. Those guys are not looking for something big. Customers are not looking for a building. They are looking for services. Do you agree with me? You're looking for services. And we saw the beginning of these revolutionary guys. A lot of people might not believe, but the boom of FinTechs started with CBN themselves. In 2004, when they began to tell them to say that they need to include technology as part of their enabling function, right? And we saw the likes of InterSwitch, and we saw the likes of System Specs, right? It was thereafter we began to see the boom of the crazy guys whose balance sheet today can tear down 2 tier 2 banks. And you tell yourself, how would you wake up in the morning and say, I want to bring all my life savings and keep it in a place where they don't have an office where I can go to or have no branch? How many of you have money in piggy vest here? Can you wave your hands? You can imagine. Does piggy vest have a branch in Akure here? So this was the beginning of the revolution. People were not asking for a branch. People were not asking for a building. Right? Same thing that happened in the 80s, in the 18s rather, began to happen. And these guys, every Monday morning you would hear XYZ raised XYZ million seed fund. You would hear XYZ raised XYZ in seed fund. You would hear Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D. And do you know the interesting part? For everything you do, there is now tech. Right? Food tech, health tech, education tech, transport tech, right? And for every solution, there is a bundle of payment to it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? So these guys got into this wave and they are still in this wave. And the question I want to put to us today is that looking at the way banks evolved, are we going to at some point get to the point when people will be tired of these fintechs? Where guys will say that we want to go back to the days of our fathers when we manage our money ourselves? Are we going to get to a day when finance will no longer be centralized? I stand bold to tell you this afternoon that yes, we're coming into the days of decentralized finance when you will manage your wealth yourself. Because we're going back to the 1890s when our fathers managed their money themselves. So I personally believe human behaviors don't change. Technology amplifies them. The way our fathers behaved 200 years ago is the way we'll behave in 200 years to come. Because blockchain technology, the entrance of the metaverse, Web 3.0 is going to drastically change the tides of things, especially with finance. Meaning that you will now own your wealth. And do you know the difference? The difference is because of the advent of technology, where you don't have to see people face to face anymore, right? Where you feel like I can live in Nigeria and get married to someone in Bangladesh. We need to go back to that community lifestyle again. That is the way we can thrive. We are going back to the same peer-to-peer relationship our fathers had. As I told you, this guy had a farm, he has a farm. This guy has a farm, he wants to scale his business. This guy talks to this guy to say, borrow me money, I'll return your money when I scale my business. This is the future I predict. We're going back to a time when banks will be on your gaming platforms, where you will play a game and you withdraw your money into a wallet, and you will be your bank. We're going into a time where our typical branch today will become warehouses. We're going into a time where no one will say, I'm a banker anymore. Right? So the question we should ask ourselves again, because of the bubble of the Series A, the seed fund A, Series B, the pre-seed fund, can we say that fintechs are already plowing the ways of our traditional banks? Thank you very much.